And a happy, should-be national holiday, Anita Marks, the day after the Super Bowl. I don't know why we're here. The whole country should be shut down. Everyone should be allowed to recover from their hangover, whether it's a hangover of despair, if you're a Bengals fan, or a hangover of joy, if you're a Rams fan like me, rocking the Aaron Donald jersey. So we do, unfortunately, Anita Marks, have to do some work here on this Monday. This is Bet, our Monday show. Before we jump in, a reminder you saw there in the bottom of your screen, our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ESPN Sports Betting, is where you can get all of our sports betting content across all platforms. Hopefully you were deep diving in there before the Super Bowl to get all kinds of bets from all kinds of angles. Now we kind of got to relive the Super Bowl, Anita, and go over what we may have learned and, of course, maybe spin it forward to 2023. So let's get a kick started like we do on a Monday always. Reaction or no action. The Bengals surprised some people making it to the Super Bowl this year, Anita. I think they're plus, or 125 to 1, I'm sorry. That's plus 1,250. So 125 to 1 to win the Super Bowl. They almost did it. But now they're 12 to 1 to win the Super Bowl next year. Oh, how things change. Reaction or no action, the Bengals will not reach the title game next year.
Yeah, I'm going to go reaction here. By the way, I love the Rams jersey for today's show. I'm wearing Steph Curry because we'll get to the NBA in just a second. But I'm going reaction here. I did a deep dive into some of the trends and some of the stats. So out of the 8 teams since there was a Super Bowl was created, there's only 8 teams that lost one year and went back the following year. So think about that, marinate in that for a minute. And out of those 8 teams, only 3 of those 8 returned the second year and actually won. So percentages, not so great. On top of that, let's be honest, they play in a really competitive division in the AFC North. Pittsburgh Steelers should have a quarterback this season because we know Ben Roethlisberger was a shell of himself. Even though he did get better towards the end of the postseason, they are going to go up against the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. So it's a competitive division. Then you look at Kansas City and the Bills, right? Like they'll have to get through both or one of those teams in order to represent the AFC next year, and they need some pass protection. That second half was just brutal for Joe Burrow. So reaction here for me, Tyler.
Yeah, I'm going to say reaction as well, and this is much easier to say with my team being the winner, but I think it's going to be really, really controversial because most people look at this team and say, Joe Burrow made it his second year, they got Jamar Chase, they're going to be playing in multiple Super Bowls. Anita, I am going to be fading the Bengals very hard next season. Let's start with the fact of their division. They won that division this year, but Lamar Jackson and the Ravens were about as unlucky as you can possibly get when it comes to injury on that team, on both sides of the ball. They have to have some positive regression in terms of injury luck on the Baltimore side. And they have one of the best coaches in John Harbaugh and one of the best young quarterbacks in Lamar Jackson on that team. Then you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers with Mike Tomlin. The guy never finishes below 500, and he did so this year with, let's be honest, a decrepit skeletal version of Ben Roethlisberger. If you bring in someone like Jimmy Garoppolo, much less a Russell Wilson or an Aaron Rodgers, something like that, it is going to be a massive upgrade if it's even just a Jimmy Garoppolo quarterbacking this team. We don't know about the Cleveland Browns, but then, of course, there is the Bills, there is the Chiefs. One of my favorite teams, we'll discuss in a second, the LA Chargers. I think there is going to be a massive not a massive, but a big regression for this Bengals team that I think was kind of fortunate to make it to the Super Bowl. They beat a Titans team despite getting sacked 9 times. The Chiefs gifted them the AFC Championship game. They're going to go from playing a 4th-place schedule to now a 1st-place schedule next year. And if they have any kind of injury issues, I think this team's going to take a big, big step back. So reaction in a hard way to the Bengals not making it back to a Super Bowl. Speaking of championships, now that the Super Bowl has come and gone, we turn our attention to the association and the NBA title, where the Suns are your favorites at plus 450, finally getting the respect they deserve for having the best record in the NBA. Anita, reaction or no action, Phoenix will win the NBA title this season.
I'm going to go reaction here, and I have to preface by saying, and I'm sure you remember this, my preseason NBA pick was the Warriors over the Heat for the championship. And it's looking like that's a possibility. Sure. But man, what this Suns team has been able to do the last few weeks, let alone 2 months, they're just rolling on all cylinders. Tyler, they check all the boxes. Offensively, what Chris Paul's been able to do in regard to, just being that court general and setting up everyone, especially Booker. They've got the number 3 best offense in the NBA, and they do it on the opposite side of the court as well, second best defense. They've got Bridges, who I think is deserving of winning Defensive Player of the Year. He shuts down the perimeter with their opponents, and they've got a lot of depth here, and everybody knows their role. So reaction here, yeah, I'm gonna throw a few shells on the Suns for sure, Tyler.
Let me preface this by saying I would not be shocked at all if the Suns win this NBA championship. They're on the doorstep last year, and having Chris Paul and Devin Booker, those are 2 dogs, especially in the fourth quarter, that can get you-know-what done and lift that Larry O'Brien. But I'm going to say no action here, Anita. I'm not comfortable with it because I love CP3. I want to see him get that ring. I am a Devin Booker guy, but there is, I think, much more significant competition in the entire NBA this season for an NBA title than there was a season ago. Let's start in the East with the defending champion Milwaukee Bucks. Why not them? Giannis is still the best player on the planet, and they look as good as they were a season ago. That's not to mention teams that have taken a big step, like Miami bouncing back, the Chicago Bulls, and the Brooklyn Nets. We'll see what happens there. And MVP candidate Joel Embiid as well. That's just the East. Then in the West, more so than last year, the Warriors are so legit. This new look, new upstart Memphis Grizzlies team that's kind of like the Phoenix Suns of a year ago. Again, you're wearing the Steph Curry shirt there. The Warriors are so legit. I think a team like Memphis is legit. We'll see if Utah can get Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert back, get them on the same page. I don't know. I'm not sure. But there's just more competition, I think, this year with legit title contenders than we saw a season ago. So I reluctantly say no action, but I don't love it because I am a big CP3 and Book fan. All right, let's move now to the collegiate ranks. We have March Madness on our doorstep. We got a special guest about to join us in just a second. But the NCAA champion, reaction or no action, Anita, will come from outside the top 4 betting favorites. And those top 4 are Gonzaga, Auburn, Kentucky, and Purdue. Reaction or no action?
Yeah, I'm going action here. Listen, it's March Madness, right? And it's different this season. We're not going into the tournament, the big dance, with an undefeated team who you can bet, they'll go undefeated throughout the entire season. Everybody's got a loss. Majority of good teams have 2. So I'm looking at Arizona. They're coming in hot. Keep in mind, they beat UCLA as well as USC. Look at Providence. Providence has only lost 1 game since Turkey Day, since Thanksgiving, and a lot of those teams are in the top 25. And also, don't sleep on UCLA and USC. USC just beat UCLA 67-64. So there's some teams that I think will surprise some people in the big dance. That's for sure.
Yeah, there is some level of parity in college basketball, but I am going to say no action here just because my preseason pick to win the NCAA tournament, and a team that I think has proven throughout the course of the season that they have what it takes as far as shooting and size and strength, can win it. That's Gonzaga and Purdue. They're involved in this 4. Those are my 2 favorites right now to win it, Gonzaga and Purdue. So I'm just going to say no action, but you're right. There is much more parity this year in college basketball than maybe we saw last year, so wouldn't be at all shocked if you end up right on this one with your reaction and my no action. It's just, before the season, I said Gonzaga was going to win. I kind of started to put Purdue in that bucket as well, so those 2 teams in the top 4, I'll take them. All right, we end with college hoops in reaction or no action because we wanted to bring a special guest on to bet for, I think, the first time. I'm not sure. It's Joey Brackett's Joe Lunardi. He has been on with us before. Maybe I wasn't there that day, but I am honored. Anita and I are honored to have you on to talk some college hoops. As March Madness, again, we're done with the Super Bowl. It's the middle of February. Baby, we're talking conference championships and the actual 68-team bracket coming out in like 30 days. So we got to dial in, and no one better to do that than Joe Lunardi. Joe, we have seen some things never before that has happened this season. Auburn and Purdue making it all the way to number 1 in the rankings when they had never made it up to that point as a basketball program. So you tell me, at this point, who are your 4 number 1 seeds for the NCAA tournament?
In this order, guys, would start with Gonzaga, of course, now the consensus number 1 in both polls, followed by Auburn, and then a pair of Wildcats, Arizona and Kentucky. But I think what's important to note from both a bracket and, a hypothetical investment standpoint is that the 2 seeds include Kansas, Baylor, Purdue, and, of course, finally Duke, who didn't enter into your conversation. If I flipped those 2 lines, I don't think anybody would jump up and down and go crazy. It's a deeper group of potential champions, potential top seeds, and as Anita was saying a moment ago, a more wide open kind of tournament than last year when Gonzaga and Baylor were maybe not head and shoulders, but a good shoulder ahead of the rest of the field. And of course, they played in the title game.
Joe, it's good to see you. I haven't spoken to you in quite a while. You used to always be on my radio shows, so I got to book you for those as we get closer to the tournament. But big question for you here. I'm really curious. I love to look at conferences, right? There's a lot of conferences. Sometimes we've seen at least 10 programs from a conference get in. So I'm curious, what is who has the better conference? Who do you feel is going to get the most bids in regard to teams that play in their conference?
Well, first of all, Anita, I think it's important to note that one of us has a face for radio, and it's your guest. So we'll just deal with that going forward. Look, last year we had 10 Big Ten teams, and way back in 2011, we had 11 Big East teams out of a 16-team conference. Nobody's going to be in that neighborhood this year, but the Big Ten is going to get 7. The Big East, if Creighton can hang on, is going to get 7, which is really something out of an 11-team non-football conference. And we'll see about the Big 12 because Iowa State is fading. And, of course, Oklahoma State in the big game tonight in Lawrence is not eligible. So a little bit more of an egalitarian split in terms of the at-large pool across the big conferences, and we're going to see others like the Mountain West and the West Coast Conference pick up a lot of those slots.
All right, Dr. Lunardi, let's talk the Houston Cougars, who had a rough week. They've lost twice, but before the week even started, you had them on the 4 line in your tournament. Tell us why you think they have that type of ceiling or potential.
I think if you just take a look at Houston in the last couple of years, they were a 3 seed, got to the Sweet 16 2 tournaments ago, and of course last year broke through and went to the Final Four as a 2 seed. So Kelvin Sampson, he can lose his best player in Marcus Sasser. To me, the shock isn't that the league caught up to them a little bit this week with SMU and Memphis winning games on Houston's home floor. It's that the Cougars went so long before losing a couple key guys has impacted them. I do not think Houston is a Final Four team this year, but I do think they have every chance and should play in the second weekend. Will they be a 4 seed 4 weeks from right now when we have the bracket in our hand? I'd say 60-40 that they will be.
All right, Joe, I'm really curious about Purdue. You've got them as your 2 seed. They're ranked as the 6th best team in college basketball, and the odds makers have them with the 4th best odds to win the championship. Why are they at the 2 for you, Joe?
I think you just have to look at what we saw last week. We saw the best and worst of Purdue over a 3-game span. They completed a sweep of a season series against a very, very good Illinois team that's dangerous. They went to Michigan and got absolutely hammered. And then yesterday, able to squeak by Maryland, a team that is kind of out of the running for a tournament bid at this point. So Purdue, went 2-1 in a week when other teams were going 2-3-0. So they slid a little bit. But I'll tell you what, short of Gonzaga, at least offensively, I don't know that there's a team in America more capable of getting a good shot in the half court than Purdue. And that's going to serve them very well. They're going to be a high-level Final Four choice by a lot of people 4 weeks from now.
A face made for our digital platforms here on Bet, and a basketball mind that is certainly meant to help us figure out March Madness. It's our guy, Joe Lunardi. Appreciate you dropping by Bet, and dropping some knowledge. Look forward to chatting again as we lead up to March Madness, Joe.
You know it. Thanks.
Oh, that was awesome. A lot of fun with Joe Lunardi, Anita. I love when guests have a little bit of fun, some self-deprecating humor there. And I got to catch him when he's on your show. You know I love being a part of your show when you're on radio up there in the Northeast. But he mentioned a game that we need to discuss right now that will take place in the Big 12 at Allen Fieldhouse in Lawrence, Kansas. It is those 6th-ranked Jayhawks taking on the visiting Oklahoma State Cowboys. Kansas laying 10.5 at home, a total of 143.5. You can catch this game tonight on ESPN, a 9 Eastern tip. Anita, how are you approaching a wager for this game, should you be watching?
Yeah, listen, I'm going to lay the points with Kansas, right? They're coming off a lackluster win against Oklahoma. I think they're looking as we're getting closer. You want to get into the big dance. You want to get them come into the tournament hot, feeling good. I think this is the get-right game for them in that regard. They shot 57% in that matchup against Oklahoma. They're 50% on the season, which is 4th best in the NCAA tournament. Now, Oklahoma State, they've got a really good defense, but I just don't think they can't hit it from out. They just don't shoot well, and I don't think they're going to be able to stay lock and step with Kansas in regard to putting up points. I think this has the potential to be a blowout. So I'm going to lay. I know it's double digits, but I'm going to lay the points with Kansas, Tyler.
Yeah, I'm inclined to do the same thing. I'll make a play that correlates with you because if they go over their team total of 77.5, I don't think there's enough horsepower with those Oklahoma State Cowboys to keep it within 10.5 points. So I'll play that Kansas team total over 77.5. They're at home, where, of course, they get all the calls in the gosh darn world. They'll probably shoot 35, 40 free throws because of the mystique of Phog Allen. The refs are going to give them all those easy bunnies there. And then Oklahoma State is actually a little bit of a pace-up spot. Oklahoma State's a good defense. But KU is one of the best offenses in the country, 4th in the NCAA in field goal percentage, 20th in offensive rating, and they actually will have a team on the floor with them that pushes the pace just slightly more. So I like their team total over 77.5, but I do like just laying the 10.5 at Phog Allen because, again, for some reason they get all the calls there. All right, let's switch it to the association, graduate to the NBA because we got a nice little Monday night card in the association. And how about this matchup in Brooklyn? The Nets are hosting the Kings, a new-look Kings team, and it's the Kings who are actually favored by 2, a total of 228.5. We know what's going on with this Nets team, baby. They are struggling with 11 straight losses. Now, Seth Curry and Andre Drummond, who they acquired in the James Harden trade along with Ben Simmons, who are still waiting, set to make their debut. But this matchup against the Kings, who made a big deal trading for Domantas Sabonis, what do you think about this matchup?
Yeah, I like the Kings here. And again, I'm up here in the New York area. This Nets team is a complete mess, as you pointed out, right? Like, Harden's gone. Kyrie can't play today because he's not back. KD's still injured. It's going to be the Seth Curry show tonight. I know Drummond is expected to play as well, but, man, that's where they're going to get all the points. Meanwhile, you touched on it, Tyler, Sabonis and Fox. The chemistry that they've been able to create has been quite good. So I'm on the Kings. Also, there's 2 prop bets here that I like as well. Like I said, Seth Curry, I'm going to take the over 15.5 points. You get that at -110. And also Fox, man, what he's been able to do, I'm going to go over 22.5 points for him tonight at -130. So not only do I like the Kings, but I like a few prop bets in this matchup as well.
Yeah, my specific bet is going to be in that prop market as well, and it's the newcomer for the Kings, Domantas Sabonis, going over 16.5 rebounds plus assists. Now, he's played a couple of games with the Kings, and he's averaging 18.5 rebounds and assists. He is one of the best passing big men, much like his daddy, in the NBA. And we know he's a great rebounder, and having Andre Drummond on the floor, even though Drummond's a better rebounder, is actually a good thing for Sabonis' opportunity because Drummond will be living by the rim. Drummond's not a guy who stretches you out to the free throw line or to the three-point line. Sabonis won't need to go out there to defend him. He'll be parked next to the rim, so there's going to be more opportunity, even though he's going up against a great rebounder, to grab rebounds. So I like him to have 10, 11, 12 rebounds, and we know he's a guy who can get you 6, 7, 8 assists each and every night in a game that has a total, it's close to 230, over 16.5, I should say, rebounds and assists for Sabonis. All right, another matchup we're looking at, a line that's kind of been moving, so we wonder about the status of Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is doubtful with a knee issue. You see that it opened with the Bucks laying a massive 15.5. That's now down to 11.5 against a Blazers team that's pretty much just packed it in this year. Are the Bucks the only way to bet this game, Anita?
Listen, I talked about this on our podcast earlier this afternoon with Aaron Dolan. The points were just too much for me at that point. And with Giannis now, question marks whether or not he's going to play or not. I'm staying away from the line, but I will play the under in the game. As you said, this is a Blazers team. They've waved the white flag. You've got a lot of rookies, a lot of young players that they need to see what's going on for development. They're only averaging about, if they're lucky, 100 points a game. So, and if Giannis doesn't play, well, that feeds to the under as well. So I'm going to play the under against a 224.5, and I have some prop bets in this one as well. Let's go Simons over 21.5 points. He's averaged 20 his last 2 games, and like I said, this is a Blazers team. They need to see what they've got on their roster getting ready for next season. And Middleton, over 2.5 3-pointers. This Blazers team 29th in the NBA against the 3-point shot. So Middleton, over 2.5 3-pointers tonight as well.
Yeah, I like the way you're attacking that player prop market with Giannis as a doubtful designation. Simons is going to be the main piece of that offense with Dame on the shelf and McCollum out of town. And the Bucks do like to give up a lot of 3-point shots as well, and that's how Simons usually gets his bucket. So like the way you're attacking that. As far as our official picks on the game, we might have to thread the needle here a bit. You're on the under 224.5. I'm on the Bucks team total over 118.5. So again, hopefully the Bucks win this game like 120-93. It's an absolute blowout. We both are a winner there. But even without Giannis, they do have Middleton. They do have Holiday. They do have Bobby Portis, who has been, a revelation for them. And I think those guys, obviously, with Giannis off the floor, with that doubtful designation, are going to absorb more of that scoring burden and more of that usage. And they certainly can get those buckets against a Blazers team that, again, new pieces, mailing it in. They were never good defensively to begin with. 27th in the NBA in defensive rating. And I think that matchup, even with Giannis on the shelf, portends to a lot of points for the Bucks in this game. So maybe got to thread the needle a little bit, but Blazers score 80 points in this game, and then just have the Bucks score about 125, and we'll be good. Final matchup.
There you go.
Anita, final matchup here. I'm back out in the Western Conference. Warriors visiting the Clippers, laying 6, total of 219.5. We know how good the Warriors are, but look at that little stat right there. Both teams just one cover in their last 5 contests. Are you intrigued by a side? How are you attacking this one, Anita?
I am not intrigued by a side. I think listen, I've got hefty expectations for the Warriors, as I said just a few minutes ago, but this is a team, I think a lot of guys, they're looking towards the All-Star break. They need a break, get recharged, come back, and try to make a run to go win that championship. So nonetheless, I am going to play the under in this matchup as well. I expect this to be a slugfest tonight. I really do. So I'm going to play the under and a few prop bets I like because I'm wearing Steph Curry's shirt. That's right. I'm going over par for him. He's averaging 9 assists and 6 rebounds a game. So I do believe that he can reach that. And because he's been a little off, he's only shooting 33% from downtown. Those numbers have dropped a little bit. So I'm going to take advantage of it and take the over.
You know that you're taking the over or the under, you said, in this game?
I'm taking the under in the game. I'm taking the over in points, assists, and rebounds for Steph Curry.
I was thinking, I was kind of had the wheels turning, and it happened slowly. That's why I had to double check of how I heard you. I kind of, the more I think about it, like the under for this game. It's in LA, where the Rams just won the Super Bowl. And on the Warriors side especially, they got guys who probably know LeBron or some of those Rams players. May have Draymond Green, I think, was at the Super Bowl. I know he's been on the shelf for a while, but I wonder if there were some Warriors and or Clippers players that knew some folks on the Rams and decided to party with them last night. Just thinking out loud, because this game is in LA. Ultimately, though, if I'm going to pick a side, even though Golden State's just 1-4 in their last 5, I will lay it with the Warriors. They'll have Steph, they'll have Clay, even without Dre. They're way better than this Clipper team, still without Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. So a reluctant laying of the 6, but I may pivot when I go to the window to the under. Because now the more I think about it, I bet there were some players in LA last night partying with some friends of some capacity with the Rams winning the Super Bowl. So something to consider there since the game is at Crypto.com Arena. All right, Anita, that's the way we're looking at the association. Let's finish on the 19th hole. Never too early to look at a tradition unlike any other. The 2022 Masters, of course, will take place April 7th through 10th at Augusta National. You know, Anita and I are two of the biggest golfing fiends we have in this entire network. So we love to discuss action on the links, and with the first, not the first anymore, it's the second major now, coming up, the Masters on April 7th. Or no, it's still the first major. I'm sorry, they moved the Players, the PGA Championship to May, not to March. The Players moved to March, which is the unenforced, the fifth major. But yeah, this will be the first major, April 7th through 10th at Augusta National. You see the defending champ, Hideki Matsuyama, 25-1. Our favorite is, of course, Jon Rahm, who's the best golfer in the world right now. Anita, I want you to give me a favorite. So someone like under 20-1, and then like a big long shot, someone 30-1 or longer.
Yeah, listen, after what we've seen Cantlay do this past week, let alone really the start of the season, Cantlay is playing some of the best golf I've seen him play. Previous starts at Augusta, he finished 9th, he finished 17th, and I think some people might maybe fade him because he didn't even make the cut last year. But you look at what he's been able to do. 5 of the last winners have finished in the top 5 prior to teeing up at the Masters. Check, he's got that. 3 of the last 6 winners have won prior in the calendar year before the Masters. Granted, he only came in second, but still second this past week in Phoenix. There's a lot to be said there. And then my long shot.
Hold your long shot for just a second. Hold your long. Okay. Cat's out of the bag. I was going to try and tease some people there because I was going to set up one of your favorite names. I'll just get my favorite out of the way. Jordan Spieth, one of my favorite golfers. I think his game is rounding back into form for championship level golf. He is someone who has, of course, won at this course already. Course history matters so much at Augusta because you play the same course every year for the green jacket. He already knows how to attack each and every angle, and I think his game is rounding back into form. We saw that at the AT&T at Pebble Beach. When there's championship fields, we went through that lull a couple years ago, but the last 6 months or so, Jordan's been back to contending in those big fields. All right, now I want the long shot, and I don't think it should surprise anyone, Anita, that your guy, the dude you love, Willie Z, is a long shot. Tell us why Zalatoris is your guy for Augusta.
Yeah, listen, I actually love this play more than I like the Cantlay play. You know, I had to give you more of a favorite with Cantlay, but man, do I love Willie Zalatoris, especially getting him at 35-1. Those are some really good odds. This is a young man, granted, new to the tour, right? Like second year, right? But he is not scared of the big stage. He finished second last year at the Masters, tied for 6th at the U.S. Open, so he loves those type of tournaments. Augusta's all about the second shot, and right now, Willie Z, first on tour in strokes gained on approach. He is hitting his irons like nobody's business, and if he would have putted better a few weeks ago, he would have already gotten 1 win under his belt. So he's just been in great form, and he comes in. He's a guy I'm looking at, and I actually, again, I like Willie Zalatoris 35-1 more than I like Cantlay.
On Valentine's Day, I urge you folks out there to find anything you love as much as Anita Marks loves a Willie Zalatoris bet. Her Valentine in the golf world is taking a Will Zalatoris ticket to the window. My girl loves some Willie Z, and I can't blame her. He's made her, I'm sure, a few pairs of shoes in her closet are probably due to Will Zalatoris. I'm going to go 50-1. Paul Casey, a little bit longer odds there, but this is a guy who hasn't broken through for that major at Augusta, but he has played it 10, 15 times in his career and is always kind of in that top 15, top 10. So at 50-1 for a guy who knows this course and certainly has major championship game. We don't see him that often over here in the States because he plays most of the time over there on the European Tour, but he is one of the 20 best golfers in the world, and to get him at 50-1, I love Paul Casey, the Englishman, as a long shot for the 2022 Masters, but I don't love him as much as Anita Marks loves Will Zalatoris. There's no doubt about that.
I do. I love him a lot. And by the way, I mean, it took you, 28 minutes and 30 seconds to even acknowledge that it's Valentine's Day. Hopefully, you've got a hot date there in hot Vegas.
Single and ready to mingle. You can be my Valentine today, Anita Marks. That would make me the luckiest man in the world. Always love hopping on Bet with you. My Rams are the Super Bowl champs, baby. Happy Valentine's Day.